I'm Michelle, and we're going to talk about how I and you can use mindfulness, compassion, and connection to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. Hi, I'm Michelle, and today we're going to be talking about the voice inside and shifting your inner dialogue. Before we get into today's show, I wanted to let you know about something new I created. It's called the Morning Reset from Chaos to Connection. And it's 4 practical steps to implement in less than a few hours to calm the morning chaos and create a connected routine. I'm going to do this live December 4th, followed by a Q&A call a week or so later. And if you can't make the recording live, or if you can't make the live event call, then you can get the recording. So, again, I'm Michelle, and I help parents who want to parent peacefully to foster strong relationships with their children and at times find it very hard. And when my kids were small, I found myself so overwhelmed and burnt out. Not only did I struggle with responding peacefully or playfully, I got caught in an awful yelling pattern, followed by overwhelming shame because yelling was the last thing that I wanted to do. Now, let's talk about how I and you can use the science of mindfulness and self-compassion to find your inner calm and a little more sanity in your parenting. So, the voice inside, shifting your inner dialogue. Let's break this down. So, in the morning, I asked my kiddo to walk the dog. And of course, they respond with complaints. They said no, and why do I have to do this? And on and on. Ugh, I am getting frustrated again just thinking about it. I'm sure that many of you, if not all of you, can relate to mornings or just asking your kids to do a chore like that. For years, and practicing hand in hand, which is essentially respond. If you haven't heard of it, it's responding calmly in moments like that, and considering the many reasons why my kiddo might not be saying, "Okay, mom, I'll go walk the dog, no problem." Even saying that, it's like that's what we want to hear, right? But that's not ever what we hear. And hand in hand, teaches parents how to respond calmly and follow versus like jumping immediately into threats and punishments and consequences. If you don't do this, then da 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 da. So that's what hand in hand is about in general. And or just giving up and walking away to avoid the fight, right? Forget it. I'll just walk the dog myself. All of which are such normal responses. And it's really difficult to step out of those patterns. So one of the biggest struggles that I've personally had to overcome is, and that I now help parents work to overcome, is the inner dialogue in those moments. Because I can have very good intentions to respond calmly and follow through calmly, and find it very challenging. And one of the things that's been most helpful to recognize is that my inner dialogue is not helping me in those moments. So let me share with you some of the things that parents have shared with me that happens for those. And I relate to all of these. My kids being disrespectful, they're being rude. Who do they think they are? How dare they talk to me that way? If I ever talk to my parent that way, and on and on and on. I mean, it's actually probably not uncommon for us to say some of that stuff out loud, right? Because it is really difficult when our kid doesn't just say, "Okay, mom," and do the thing. When they talk back, when they push back, when they have objections, complain, all these things that is very normal for kids to do. It can be very challenging for us as parents. So I want you to take a moment to think about a similar situation for you where maybe you've asked your kiddo to do something, or maybe the last like tense, tight moment with your kiddo. And think about what was your inner dialogue in that moment. What kind of things do you think to yourself in those tense, tight moments with your kiddos? And replay it in your mind and look at what's happening inside for you. Your kiddo's not responding ideally. You have to figure out what to do. And you might be really triggered right off the bat, right? Like that's a big hook for most parents to not be listened to or responded to in a positive way, maybe to be ignored, pushing back, all that stuff. It's like such a relatable hook for most parents. So let's start with the surface. On the surface, this is probably very easy to figure out. How do you feel in these moments? Angry, frustrated, enraged. Maybe it's tired and exhausted, right? That's the situation where you're like, forget it. I'm just going to do it myself or ask someone else to do it, or the dog's just not going to get walked. None of which are ideal, right? We don't want to just give in when our child pushes back. So let's look at what's happening under those surface level emotions. If you're not sure, you're like, what? I don't know. All I feel is angry and frustrated, Michelle. What are you talking about? Totally get it. All right. So ask yourself a few questions. Looking back at that situation, playing the scene out in my mind, how do you feel about yourself as a parent in those moments? How are you feeling about your kiddo? What worries do you have about the behaviors your kiddo is displaying? Is there a worry that if your kiddo can, that they're going to continue to do this? Is there a worry that they might do this with teachers or other adults or when they're a teenager or young adult? That this is kind of like who they are or who they're becoming or who they're going to be. So you're just looking for some underlying fears, and now you're getting curious, and maybe you're starting to uncover some because the thing is, if we're really reactive, we probably have some underlying feelings, and most of them are fear-based. So it's really helpful to be aware of them because otherwise they hijack us in these moments and we're reactive and da-da, and then our kid reacts to us and then we're mad at them. And then it's easy to just stay on that, right? They talked back to me. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. And that all happened and is real and valid, but it doesn't get to the core of what was happening inside for you. So the more we're aware, the less that these inner feelings can hijack us in those moments. So again, consider your inner dialogue. Going back to my kids being rude, they're being disrespectful, they're talking to me in a ridiculous way. My parents would never allow this, those kinds of thoughts. So, do you agree with these thoughts? In totality, do you agree with them 100%? Even if you don't agree with them, even if you agree with them 90% or 50%, do you agree with them 100%? Because oftentimes we forget in these moments that we don't, our kiddo, it doesn't always do this. It feels like always, right? That's our hooked brain. That is our fight or flight response, always and never thinking. We feel in the moment, my kiddo always does this. They never listen. I can never ask them what to do. Always and never thoughts are very normal in those moments, and they're very like sticky. They get in our brain and we believe them. And that's why we feel like we must stop this awful pattern now, right? But we forget, oh, actually they just walked the dog without even me asking yesterday. Or yesterday was fine. Like I felt really good about them. They got a compliment from their teacher or whatever it was. But we totally forget all of that in the moment. And it feels like it's always like this. They're always like this. And maybe the bottom line is that these inner thoughts are fueling the fire, right? They're fueling our reactivity. They're fueling our being hooked in those moments, and they're not helping us. They're not helping us respond calmly or the way that we want to. And yeah, our thinking becomes very narrow and we forget about all the other stuff that, like them as a whole person. We're just seeing this one behavior and we're kind of globally defining that's who they are in these moments. That's what our hooked brain is doing. So you might think, I mean, what helps me is to think about, gosh, what if someone took my worst moments and then defined me by my worst moments? Yikes. I don't know about you, but I'm human, so I am not perfect. And I sometimes am, angry at my husband. Sometimes I'm short and angry with my kids. Sometimes I'm reactive. Sometimes I'm, a lot of things that are not ideal, right? But I would hate it. I would be crushed if someone took one of those. Like my husband was like, that's who you are. Or my kids were like, that's who you are. And they thought of me as a person in that way that I was in that moment. So, of course, we don't want to do that with our kids, and it can be really, really hard not to do this in the moment. It can be really hard. We like when we calm down, we kind of shift our thinking back and we remember all of our whole kid and everything. But if we recognize this is happening in the moment, it's easier to step out of it. So that's what helps us keep it into perspective, where it's our thoughts and when we're not hooked would sound more like my kid's having a hard time today. They're struggling with XYZ. They're tired. And then when we are keeping it into perspective, like there's not that their behavior is okay, it's that it's in perspective to this moment, to this day, to this situation versus a global description of who they are. When we are able to keep it in perspective, it's far easier for us as parents to remain calm, which is what we want to do. And then it's easier to follow through with the request, right? So they say, I don't want to walk the dog. Why do I have to walk the dog? It's not my turn to walk the dog. I hear you, and you're going to walk the dog. Yes, I know it's not fun. You'd rather not, and you're going to walk the dog. So I can respond calmly when I'm not hijacked by my fears, by my inner thoughts and dialogue that are taking me off into reactivity. When I'm not hooked, I can respond calmly. What would it be like for you thinking about that same situation that you were playing out in your mind to be able to respond calmly and say, I know that this is difficult and we're going to do XYZ. Yes, I know it's hard and you're still going to do it. What would it be like to be able to feel calm in that moment and still follow through and not lose it? Doesn't it sound like almost sometimes too good to be true? It is possible and it does take practice. It takes practice. It's taken me a lot of practice. And for me personally, a lot of support. That's why I created a group for parents because the reality is it's easier to do this in a group when we see that we're not alone and we see other parents struggle with the same thing. So, in summary, parents often feel really guilty after responding with threats and punishments, especially when we say something like, you're going to lose your iPad for a month. And then you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm more punished than they are, right? So, we often don't like how we respond and we can see that it doesn't work. Or parents say they're disappointed with themselves and they get frustrated and they feel like, why can't I stay calm? And then a really unhelpful thing happens, which is parents often criticize themselves, right? It's really normal. But parents go in and criticize themselves. They think to themselves, I need to do better. Why can't I stay calm? And on with self critical thoughts. And unfortunately, that doesn't bring the changes we desire either because we feel worse about ourselves and the situation. And the next time, it's that much harder to stay calm. Or on the flip side, we might just shut down and give up. So, getting clear about what's happening inside of us and getting curious with compassion and with kindness is going to support us to make the changes we desire with our kiddos and in those sticky kind of situations, right? So, what we're telling ourselves in these scenarios, the thoughts that are going through our mind, they matter a lot. And what we tell ourselves has a huge impact on our actions and reactions in those situations. So at the beginning of the course, parents would describe reporting like feeling hijacked in those situations and on edge in tough parenting moments. And after the course and taking a deeper look at their inner dialogue and where those thoughts and feelings were coming from, parents reported having more agency in those parenting moments. They could step into responding versus reacting. So I'd love to hear if you get to give this a try and how it goes. Send me an email. This week's play idea, get outside. Of course, I love it out. I mean, it's beautiful time of year here, so outside's my first choice. Get outside and play something outside with your kiddo. So maybe it's basketball, maybe baseball, a nature hike. Give your kid a couple of choices that you don't hate. And if it feels like a lot, like, oh my gosh, I don't have time, which I completely relate to this. I don't have time to go outside. I don't have time to play basketball. I don't have time. I don't want to. I totally understand. The thing that helps me make it more manageable is to say, I'm going to just do it for 10 minutes. I can do it for 10 minutes, even something I hate or don't enjoy. I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. So set a timer on your watch for 10 or 15 minutes and enjoy it the best you can. So I would love to hear how it goes and what other outdoor activities you like to do with your kids. You can leave a message and let me know what you enjoy, and we can like learn from each other's ideas. Again, check out that mini course. It is let me go back and tell you, it is, sorry, the morning reset from chaos to connection. And again, in this, it's going to be an hour and a half long live call, and it's going to be 4 practical steps that you can implement in your mornings in less than a few hours to help shift your morning from chaos to calm and create a routine of connection. And then if you're part of the live call a week later, you can join the Q&A to kind of like troubleshoot what went well, what didn't go so well. And if you can't make the live call, then you can get the recording. So please check it out because I'd love to see you there. And also, before you go, I have a free gift for you if you haven't checked it out already, the guided pause and regroup. It's when you learn to pause, you can put an earbud in and I will walk you through grounding yourself, moving through the anger and frustration in your body, and being able to rejoin your kiddo or your kids or your family from a place of calm so you can respond to them the way that you would like to. A reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Mindful Life does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. I am a therapist, but I'm not your therapist, and this is not therapy and should not be a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thanks again for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well.